Hey guys, I got a few questions about the bits and burrs I used to make these carvings in my last videos, so I wanted to go over a dozen or so that I think everyone should have before they start carving. I'll split this video into sections and put timestamps in the description if you want to skip ahead. Let's get into it. We're starting out with the Dremel 561, easily my favorite burr as it quickly carves out the outlines for your projects. It's also what I use to roughly shape out sort of the general shapes of my carvings before I get into the detail work. You do need to be careful with this one because it likes to bite into the wood, sort of jump where it wants to. So always carve right to left and hold on tight. Next we have the 562. Similar to the 561, except the teeth are a lot less aggressive, so it's a lot easier to get slower, more controlled cuts when you need to be more precise. It's also really handy when you need to drill holes or rough out like large engravings. Here we have the Kutzall Xtreme Flame Burr. This has been one of my favorites for a while, as you can really quickly shape out your carvings, similar to the 561, but it offers a lot more control because it doesn't bite into the wood quite like the 561 does. This is another Kutzall burr, the original taper burr. I use it similarly to the Kutzall Xtreme, except it's more fine, so it's better for detail work. And also the straight shape helps to bevel the squared pieces of wood with a sharper edge than like a rounded burr would make. You can pick up either of the Kutzall burrs I just talked about using the link in the promo code in the description to get 5% off. Full disclosure, I do get a commission, but also I've been using both of these burrs well before I partnered with them. So I do recommend them. Here are two different styles of spherical tungsten carbide cutting bits. These things tend to be the most consistent with carving really hardwood. I'm not sure why they work, but they work really well. I also use them in tight places because they don't bite into the wood as much, so you have a lot more control. This is also a tungsten carbide cutting burr. It's just a different shape, and it makes it really easy to get a clean carve compared to the more rough burrs. So I usually use these just before sanding to minimize the time I have to spend doing that. Here's the last tungsten carbide burr. The straight edge on this is great for giving pieces a texture for scales or fur like I did in my last bison video. The edge is also great for carving in like consistent straight lines if you need those. Okay, moving on to the engravers. Here's the Dremel 191. It's my go-to engraver for both engraving and very fine detail work, such as working on the eyes and mouth of wood spirits. It also does a pretty good job of leaving engravings pretty clean right off the bat, but we'll get to fixing that even more a little bit later in the video. Some engravings and details need to be even finer, so I use the Dremel 106 for that, which is exactly the same as 191, but it's a lot smaller. This is my last engraver, which is the Dremel 111. It's long and thin with the straight edge, which allows for very fine engraving, as well as drilling really small holes. I know it's smoking, let's just ignore that. The Dremel 84922 is an interesting one because you normally use it for engraving glass or metal, but I also like to use it sort of to sand because it can grind off the hanging pieces of wood really well in engravings or holes, which makes sanding a lot faster and easier. Okay, with that, let's get into sanding. This is the classic Dremel 407 sanding drum. It speaks for itself, but it's perfect for, sanding and also beveling straight edges since its shape is fixed. The Dremel EZ402 is not fixed, so it flexes a little, so it makes it easier to sand away edges without creating new edges. They're also great because you can really easily replace the sandpaper without having to buy more. because you can just cut out circles the same shape and glue them on and then use them again. I'll add a clip at the very end of this video to show you guys how I make those. Finally, we have the polishing wheels. These come in 4 grits from I think 160 to 400, and they make just an amazing shine on pretty much every wood I use them on. They're always the final step for my carvings, and they make the final product just look beautiful and shiny. So I'd really recommend using these if you're not getting a good finish on your carvings. They also work super well to clean up engravings and get all the little wood bits off of the edges. Well, I hope you guys learned something new from this. Yes, I know, I misspelled thanks. Not sure how that happened. If you want to check out videos where I actually use these bits and burrs to make carvings, feel free to subscribe and check out the rest of my channel. Thanks for watching. So, for you guys curious from earlier in the video on how I remake these sanding discs, I'll go over that really quickly. We'll first take off this thing. I've got a few of them. I'm going to use 200 grit sandpaper, just the regular stuff. We're going to just grab each disc, put it down, pencil, circle around it. You want to make sure the circle's like as clean as you can get. I'm just going to make 2. And then we'll cut them as cleanly as possible. You want it to be really circular. Otherwise, if you have a little notch hanging off or something and you catch the lip of it as you're carving, it might rip, which isn't a big deal. You'll just have to make another one. Okay, we have our disc. We get our 2 old ones and plain old Elmer's glue. Don't need anything special. Tiny little dot. I just put it in the middle. Press. And then I get something heavy, like a big metal stapler, and weigh them down as they dry overnight. It's really as simple as that. I've never had one fall off. I've layered like 3 or 4 of them on top of each other. You can also just peel it back off and add a new one. These things really shouldn't be as expensive as they are, so I highly recommend just making your own. So you don't have to keep going to the store to get new ones. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.